Okay, so today we will be learning how to solve two-step equations. We need to remember what the difference is between an equation and an inequality. An equation has one distinct answer, so it's going to have an equal sign. It will not have a greater than, or a greater than or equal to, or a less than or equal to, or a less than symbol, because this says that there's multiple answers. An equation has one distinct answer, so an equal sign equals an equation. All right, so there are a couple different steps that we need to do in order to do two-step equations. So steps. 1, we need to define the variable. Okay, and the variable is going to be a letter. All right, so we need to find the letter. Okay, so then we need to write the equation. Most of the time the equation is already going to be written for you. All right, step 3, solve the equation. This is what we're going to be focusing on in this video. All right, we're going to do that by finding inverse operations inside of the equation. And then, if there's a question, answer the question. Okay, there are a couple different steps that we are not going to worry about today, but we're going to worry about at a later time. All right, so 1, define the variable. This is for a word problem. 2, write the equation. That's also for a word problem. Solving the equation, that's just basic math. And then 4, finding the answer or answering the question. That is for a word problem as well. But let's just focus on solving an equation. So let's do an example. Okay, so let's do an example. 5 1/2 c plus 10 equals 65. Okay, first things first is we see that there is a fraction here, a mixed fraction or a mixed number. Okay, so let's make that a improper fraction. So 5 halves is 11 halves c plus 10 equals 65. All right, so now we have something to work with. All right, we have 2 terms on this side of the equal sign, 1 term on this side of the equal sign. So we could do this a couple different ways. We can multiply both sides by 2 because this is 11 divided by 2c plus 10. All right, or we can go ahead and just take this 10 over to this side. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that 10 and I'm going to put it over to that side. 11 halves c equals 65. When the term switches sides, it switches signs. So we can go ahead and do that math. 11 halves c equals 65 minus 10 is 55. Okay, so now we can do a inverse operation on this part. This was their first inverse operation. Now we can do an inverse operation on the 11 halves. So this is 11 divided by 2 multiplied by c. So the first thing we need to get rid of is this 2. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2. 55 multiplied by 2 and 2 multiplied by 11 halves c. So the 11 halves is going to go away, and because those 2's are going to cross out, we're going to have 11c equals 55 multiplied by 2 is 110. Okay. So I rewrote what we have going on over here because I ran out of room on the paper. So now we have one more inverse operation to find out what c is. So this says 11 multiplied by c, so the inverse of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 11. These 11s cancel each other out because 11 divided by 11 is 1. C is what I'm left with on that side. And 110 divided by 11 is 10. It's as simple as that. Just knocking out one inverse operation after another until you find an answer. Okay, let's do another example together. Let's do negative 45 equals 5 minus 2y. Okay, so the first things first, we have one term on this side of the equal sign and two terms on this side of the equal sign. So let's get this 5 away from the term with the variable y. All right, so let's bring the 5 over there. So we can say negative 45. It was a positive 5 on this side, so it would be a negative 5 on this side equals negative 2y. So 45 minus 5 equals negative 2y. So we can do the math there. 45 in the 45 minus 5 in the negative direction, so that would be negative 50 equals negative 2y. All right, the only inverse operation we have left here is to divide by negative 2, because negative 2 multiplied by y, the inverse, is dividing by negative 2. Those negative 2's cross out, and what we're left with is a y, because negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1. Divide this side by negative 2. Negative 50 divided by negative 2 is 25. Okay, so let's do another example. 3/7 minus j equals 1/2. When you have multiple fractions in a problem, you have to find the common denominator. Okay, this is important. If you don't find the common denominator, then you will have some trouble. So when we find the common denominator, we have 3/7 and 1/2. So the easiest way to find the common denominator is to, well, we could count by 7s and count by 2s and then see when you meet up. Or you could just multiply them together, you get 14. So we have, what do you do to the, let's write that out first. What do you do to the 3 to get the 7 to be 14? Multiply it by 2. All right, so you got to multiply the 3 by 2, and you get the 6. And then what do you do to the 2 to be 14? You multiply it by 7. So you got to multiply the top by 7, so you get 7/14. So 1/2 equals 7/14, and 3/7 equals 6/14. Now we have something to work with. We want to get the j by itself. So let's go ahead and let's take this term and let's put it over here. So negative j equals 7/14. It's a positive over here. If there's no sign, it's a positive. So over on this side, it's going to be a negative 6/14. All right, so we have negative j equals 7/14 minus 6/14, which is 1/14. Okay. But we have a negative variable. We don't want that negative variable. We want a negative number. We don't want a negative variable. So really, if we remember right, this is negative 1j equals 1/14. So we can do an inverse operation here. Negative 1 multiplied by j is negative 1 divided by j. That's the inverse. Those 1's cross out because negative 1 divided by negative 1 is 1. And we're left with a j. And we can divide this side by a negative 1, and it turns into a negative 1/14. Okay, let's do one more example together. And let's say 5/3 equals 1/3 multiplied by 2 plus d. Okay, so we have fractions. If we remember, we have to find the common denominator. Well, it's 3. It's already done. But we have to use the distributive property right here. Okay? So we have to take this 1/3 and we have to multiply it by 2 and by d to get rid of the parentheses. So 5/3 equals 1/3 multiplied by 2 plus 1/3 multiplied by d. So I just multiplied that 1/3 by whatever was in the parentheses. Now, we just multiply right across. When there's just one number, there's really a 1 right there. So 5/3 equals 1/3 multiplied by 2. So we multiply across, we get 2/3 plus 1/3 d. 5/3 equals 2/3 plus 1/3 d. So let's get the term with the variable by itself. So let's take this one right here, put it over to this side with the 5/3. So we can say 5/3. It's a positive over here. So on this side of the equation, it's going to be a negative 2/3 plus, 5/3 minus 2/3 equals 1/3 multiplied by d. So we can go ahead and do the math over here. 5/3 minus 2/3 is 3/3 equals 1/3 d. Okay, let's stop there for just 1 second. 3/3 equals 1 whole. So we can go ahead and we can say 1 equals 1/3 d. Okay, I'm going to come over here because I'm running out of room. And I'm going to say 1 equals 1/3 d. Now the inverse of this is a little tricky because it's not like there's a d on the top or a d on the bottom or a certain number that's on the bottom. Really, we can rewrite this as 1 equals d, 1d over 3. We can always put the variable on top, okay? So 1d divided by 3 equals 1, all right? So the inverse of 1d divided by 3 would be multiplying by 3, multiplying by 3. Those 3's cross out. 3 multiplied by 1 is 3 equals 1d, but we can get rid of that 1 because we can just write a d, so 3 equals d. Let's get into the habit of writing the variable first. So d equals 3. I know this is a pretty long problem, but if we just take our time and look for the right things to do, we can solve these very easily, step by step, slowly, and correctly.